Hey guys, in today's video, I would like to talk about a new way to lazy load images. In 2020, I made a video about lazy loading for Shopify developers, and the tutorial used the lazy sizes library to lazy load the images, which is where essentially the library waits until the image is nearly in view before loading it, which saves on some network requests and there's a performance benefit to it. But last year, 2021, I think, or it could be the year before that, Chromium-based browsers added a feature where you can natively lazy load images without having to use the lazy sizes library, which is great because it saves on network requests and adding an additional library. So that was a pretty good feature to add. So I want to quickly run through how you can implement this feature. And I want to show you a way to support non-Chromium based browsers who haven't implemented this feature yet and still lazy load images within those browsers. And a few advantages and disadvantages of the new way of lazy loading that I'm going to show you in a second. So let's firstly go over the old way, like a little recap. So the old way was just to get the lazy sizes.js library. I think that's the most popular one. There might be others. And then to add a class called lazy load to the image you want to lazy load, then add the image URL, the data CRC attribute, and then the lazy loading would take place. This goes without saying that, of course, you only want to lazy load images that are below the fold, not above the fold, because you want images that are above the fold to lazy load straight away. The idea of lazy loading is to prevent loading non-critical resources on page load. So non-critical could be images or videos or iframes or even CSS or script files that are not needed in the initial viewport when you load the page. So if I was to go to, let's say, google.com, or even let's go to GitHub. So this will be the initial viewport. And as I scroll down, all this extra stuff would be the below the fold. Okay, so hopefully that made some sense. So the new way of lazy loading, which is implemented by the browser, Chromium-based browsers, is just really simply just to add a loading equals lazy attribute. So loading equals lazy, and you can also add other values for this property, this attribute. So you could have eager here, which just means to lazy load it as soon as possible. Ideally, you want to use this for images that are above the fold, or you can use auto, which I think is just like normal. But yeah, so that's the new way, very simple. So the benefits of this new way, this browser-based way of lazy loading, is it's just easier to implement. You don't need to rely on a library. Relying on libraries there's a certain cost to it in that something could break because typically these are maintained by a few people or one person, whereas browsers have a big team behind them and they're not going to release any bugs or they rarely make mistakes as compared to libraries. There's a performance benefit because you're using one less library. The disadvantages is it's not supported in non-Chromium based browsers like Safari. So this should work in Chrome, Opera, I think Firefox, and it won't work in Safari at the moment. However, I think there are plans to add this feature to Safari. It's currently an experimental feature, so hopefully that will be added at some point. Currently, Shopify is advising users to use this new way of lazy loading, so that indicates that maybe this is the way to go. Also, it only supports lazy loading for image tags, iframes. It doesn't support background images, so you can't lazy load background images. Background images. That's not. It's the disadvantages. So if you are in a situation where you want to utilize this new with lazy loading, however, you want to also be able to lazy load images in browsers that do not support this property, what should you do? And this was actually a conversation I had with someone at my workplace, because they wanted the ability to lazy load images across all browsers. And I didn't have a good solution at the time, but I think there was an article I read, and then it explained how you could do that using a script. So the script is this script essentially. So let me copy and paste it into my code editor here. Okay, so all it does is essentially check if the loading attribute here is available in the browser. And if it is, then it gets all the images with the loading equals lazy attribute and gets the data, gets the CRC attribute, gets the data CRC attribute and adds it to the CRC attribute. And if the loading property is not supported, then we'll just use lazy size library. And if you're going to use a script, then you need to have an image tag that looks something like this. So here we have the data CRC attribute with the image URL. Then we have the loading equals lazy, class lazy load. And this kind of covers all use cases, in case, so you can lazy load across browsers, while at the same time utilizing the new feature available on Chromium-based browsers. So I think this is the way to go at the moment. If you really want that cross-browser lazy loading support, which if you do, it makes sense. In Shopify land, you can put here Shopify. Lazy loading in Shopify land. You could use this attribute, or you could use their image tag filter, which I put over here. And you essentially add like a loading lazy kind of filter. And sorry, as part of the image tag filter, and that will add the loading equals lazy attribute to the image. And that's essentially how you can lazy load images across browsers while utilizing the new browser lazy loading feature. So hopefully that helps you. Do reach out if you have any questions. Visit my website, hassanarmstrong.com. Thank you for listening.